The day my wife divorced me, everyone believed they were watching a broken man lose everything. She smiled, my own family looked away, and not a single person stood by my side. I walked out of the courthouse carrying nothing but a small box. Then a billionaire's limousine stopped in front of me. What happened over the next few minutes exposed a secret I'd kept for years, left my ex-wife speechless, and proved that the people who judge your value too soon often become the ones who regret it the most. Stay with me, because this story isn't just about heartbreak, it's about the incredible power of character, patience, and a twist no one saw coming. The judge signed the final page with a quiet stroke of his pen. And just like that, 10 years of marriage ended in silence. My wife smiled before the ink had even dried, as though the courtroom had become a stage built for her greatest victory. She looked at me with cold satisfaction, convinced she had finally escaped a man she believed would never become anything. Her laughter echoed through the room, while whispers spread among friends and relatives seated behind her, each one certain they were watching the downfall of a forgotten husband. Someone muttered that I had nothing left. Another shook their head with pity. No one expected me to argue. No one expected me to fight. Instead, I folded the divorce papers carefully, picked up the small box holding the last pieces of my old life, and thanked the clerk with quiet respect. I refused to let bitterness become the final chapter of my story. My ex-wife crossed her arms proudly, surrounded by people congratulating her for choosing a brighter future, filled with money, luxury, and status. She never looked back as I walked toward the courthouse doors alone. To everyone inside, I was simply another man who had lost everything worth keeping. The afternoon air felt strangely peaceful. I stepped onto the courthouse steps. I took one slow breath, ready to disappear without a word. Then the sound of powerful engines interrupted the silence. A long black limousine rolled to a gentle stop directly beside me. Uniformed security officers stepped out first. One of them hurried around the vehicle, opened the rear door with unmistakable respect, and spoke words that stunned every person watching. "Sir, we've been expecting you." The entire crowd froze. My ex-wife turned around, her confident smile fading instantly. But when the limousine door opened, everything she believed about me was about to collapse forever. As stunned faces remained fixed on the waiting limousine, my mind drifted back to the beginning, long before success, pride, and appearances changed everything. There was a time when my wife and I shared a tiny apartment, counting every dollar together while dreaming about the future. She had talent, determination, and enormous ambitions. I believed in those dreams so completely that I quietly placed many of my own aside to help her chase them. When a promotion required relocating for my career, I declined because it would interrupt her education. When she wanted to start a business, I worked longer hours without complaint to help pay the bills. I never kept score. Watching her succeed felt like succeeding together. Recognition never mattered to me because I believed real love was measured by sacrifice, not applause. As the years passed, her hard work paid off. Better opportunities arrived, followed by expensive clothes, exclusive parties, and influential circles. At first, I celebrated every achievement with genuine pride, but slowly, something changed. She began apologizing for my simple clothes before introducing me to colleagues. She suggested I speak less during business dinners. Eventually, I noticed she smiled differently around wealthy people than she did around me. Her new friends filled her mind with dangerous ideas. They insisted success meant surrounding yourself with people who looked successful. They joked that loyalty couldn't buy luxury homes or exclusive memberships. Little by little, they convinced her that a humble husband had become an embarrassing reminder of a life she wanted to forget. I saw the distance growing between us long before the divorce papers appeared. I heard the colder tone in her voice and noticed the disappointment hidden behind polite smiles. Still, I refused to answer bitterness with bitterness. I believed character was revealed, not when life was easy, but when respect became difficult. What almost no one knew was that my quiet life wasn't nearly as ordinary as it appeared. Every few months, I received brief phone calls from people whose names rarely appeared in newspapers, but whose decisions shaped industries. I never discussed those conversations because they weren't meant to impress anyone. They were reminders that trust, once earned through integrity, often lasts longer than fame. That was why I remained calm when the marriage ended. I wasn't expecting a miracle, but I knew something. The courtroom. DID in single quotes, the truth behind that mysterious limousine wasn't about luck. It was connected to a secret from years earlier that almost nobody knew. The chauffeur stood perfectly still beside the open door, his expression filled with respect rather than obligation. "Mr. Carter," he said warmly, "it's an honor to see you again." The security team nodded as if greeting someone they deeply admired instead of a man who had just walked out of a divorce court carrying nothing more than a small cardboard box. Every eye on the courthouse steps shifted toward me, struggling to understand what they were witnessing. I hesitated for only a moment before stepping forward. Inside the limousine sat an older gentleman in an impeccably tailored suit. His face carried the confidence of someone who had built an empire. But when our eyes met, he smiled with genuine gratitude and rose from his seat. "I've waited a long time for this day," he said, extending his hand. "It has been years," I replied quietly. "Far too many," he answered. "Please, come in." The crowd watched in complete silence as I entered the limousine. Through the open door, my ex-wife stared in disbelief, unable to reconcile the man she had dismissed with the scene unfolding before her. The billionaire looked at me for a long moment before speaking again. "You probably never expected to see me after all these years. I never helped you expecting anything in return," I said. "I know," he replied. "That's exactly why I've never forgotten." He leaned back and smiled thoughtfully. "When my company was on the edge of collapse, everyone around me advised shortcuts that would have saved money but destroyed innocent families. You were the only person who stood up and refused to compromise your principles. You risked your own career to protect people you barely knew. That decision cost you promotions, recognition, and opportunities, but it saved my company from becoming something I could never respect. I remained silent. I became wealthy because I listened to the one man who valued integrity more than profit," he continued. "I've spent years searching for the right moment to repay a debt that can never truly be repaid." Outside, phones appeared almost instantly. People began recording from every angle. My ex-wife's friends whispered frantically as more luxury vehicles pulled up behind the limousine. Senior executives stepped out, one after another, greeting me with handshakes and respectful smiles. The woman who had celebrated divorcing an ordinary man now watched influential leaders welcome him, a trusted partner. Within minutes, videos flooded social media. Millions questioned the identity of the mysterious man who were courthouse in a billionaire's limousine. Comments poured in from strangers praising humility and condemning the habit of judging people by appearances. News reporters rushed toward the courthouse as rumors spread across the country, faster than anyone could contain them. Standing only a few yards away, my ex-wife finally realized she had never truly known the man she married. But the billionaire hadn't arrived simply to express gratitude. Waiting inside a leather briefcase was an extraordinary opportunity, one capable of transforming my future in ways even I had never imagined, and the next conversation would change my life forever. The limousine carried us to the billionaire's headquarters, where I was escorted into a private office overlooking the city skyline. The room was quiet, elegant, and filled with memories of decisions that had shaped countless lives. The billionaire placed a leather folder on the table and slowly pushed it toward me. "I've protected these documents for years," he said. "I promised myself they would only be opened when I found the right moment." Inside were legal agreements, company records, and a proposal unlike anything I had imagined. He wasn't offering me a reward. He was offering me a partnership. A new division of his global company was preparing to launch, and he wanted me to lead it with complete authority. I looked at him in disbelief. "You built this empire," I said. He shook his head. "No, money built the buildings. Markets created the profits. But character protected everything when it mattered most." He reminded me of the crisis years earlier when dishonest advisors had nearly convinced him to approve a transaction that looked profitable but concealed enormous fraud. I had refused to sign the paperwork, despite enormous pressure and the certainty that my career would suffer. An independent investigation later uncovered the deception, saving billions of dollars and protecting thousands of employees from devastating consequences. Every resume in my office lists impressive qualifications, he continued. Very few prove integrity when success demands compromise. Credentials can be purchased. Reputation can be manufactured. Character cannot. While we spoke, my phone continued vibrating across the table. Missed calls appeared one after another. My former wife, her friends, relatives who had ignored me for years, even people who once laughed at my quiet life, suddenly wanted to reconnect. I glanced at the screen. Before turning it face down, the billionaire smiled knowingly. You don't owe anyone an explanation. I don't, I answered calmly. And I don't owe anyone revenge either. Bitterness would have chained me to the worst day of my life. Peace offered something far more valuable, freedom. I sincerely hoped my former wife would someday understand that chasing appearances often costs far more than it gains. Outside the building, cameras waited, while headlines spread across the nation. The same voices that had dismissed me now celebrated humility, loyalty, and integrity. My story was no longer about losing a marriage. It had become a reminder that real success begins long before recognition ever arrives. What happened next wasn't about proving anyone wrong. It became a powerful lesson that inspired millions to believe that character, quietly protected through life's hardest moments, will always outlast pride, wealth, and the opinions of those who judge too quickly. A week later, the company announced my appointment before employees, investors, and reporters from around the country. Cameras flashed as the billionaire stepped onto the stage and invited me to stand beside him. The applause filled the room, but what moved me most wasn't the recognition. It was the journey that had brought me there. The billionaire raised his hand, asking for silence. Many people believe great companies are built by brilliant ideas, he began. I've learned they're built by trustworthy people. Years ago, this man chose honesty over personal gain. His decision protected thousands of families and preserved everything we've created together. Wealth can purchase influence. It cannot purchase integrity, humility, or loyalty. The audience rose to its feet. Watching from a live stream, my former wife finally understood what she had lost. She hadn't walked away from a man without value. She had walked away from someone whose greatest strengths could never be measured by expensive clothes, prestigious titles, or luxury possessions. For the first time, appearances offered her no comfort, only painful reflection. Across social media, millions shared the story. Parents encouraged their children to value kindness over status. Young professionals discussed the importance of ethics instead of shortcuts. People from every background found hope in the reminder that today's struggles never define tomorrow's possibilities. The conversation became larger than my personal journey. It became a celebration of dignity, perseverance, and the quiet strength that often goes unnoticed until the right moment arrives. As interviews ended and the crowd slowly disappeared, I stepped outside the headquarters and looked toward the horizon. My life had changed in ways I never expected, yet the greatest gift wasn't the partnership or of the success waiting ahead. It was discovering that peace is far more rewarding than revenge, and that forgiveness frees the person who chooses it. I never needed the world to regret underestimating me. I only needed the courage to keep living according to the values I refused to abandon. Sometimes life closes one door so quietly that we mistake it for the ending, when in reality it's clearing the path toward something greater than we ever imagined. Sometimes the greatest victories don't come from proving people wrong, they come from quietly becoming everything they never believed you could be. When the world judges your circumstances, let your character tell your story, because genuine wealth begins within, and no one can ever take that away from you.